Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled Revenge at McDonald's. About 2 years ago, my dad and I decided to go get some McDonald's breakfast. Our big yellow lab, Grace, loves car rides, so we brought her in the back seat. We sat in the huge breakfast drive-through line for about 10 minutes until we had ordered and had our food. My dad remembered that he had to pick up some stuff from the nearby Home Depot, so he got in a small lane that allows you to cross from the exit line into the entrance line because there was a second exit around the back of the McDonald's that is closer to where we had to go. Because the McDonald's was so busy, we were stuck in the lane and unable to merge for a while. Then the a-hole pulled in behind us. We had been sitting in the lane, trying to merge for only a few seconds when the guy pulled in behind us, almost hitting our bumper. He was talking on one of those old Bluetooth headset things and actually seemed like he was in a bit of a rush. He sat quietly for maybe a grand total of 8 seconds before he blasted us with his horn. He held it down for close to a full 20 seconds. As soon as he did this, Grace in the backseat started shaking and whimpering. She was a great dog, but she hated loud noises. The guy finally stopped honking and leaned out his window and screamed, "Move the ducking car." My dad gestured to the cars stopped in front of us, letting the guy know that we couldn't move either. The guy responded to this by blasting his horn a second time and going back to the conversation on his headset. Grace started shaking and whimpering again. Now my dad was ducking upset. He loved that dog. He put the car in park and got out. I don't think the guy could tell while he was sitting in his car, but my dad is big. He's about 6'4" and weighs around 220 pounds. He played football in college and joined the SWAT team after that. He's been a police officer for the last 20 years too. I saw the guy sink down in his seat as soon as my dad got out of the car. My dad walked up to the guy's car and before the guy could respond, he reached in and grabbed the guy's headset. He gently tossed it into the grass about 15 feet away. Just as the guy was about to say something, my dad interrupts him and says, "Hey duckface, if you hadn't noticed, we can't move either. Normally I would have let this slide, but you freaked my dog out with your horn. I can sit here all day, so I suggest you apologize. I'm not moving my car a ducking inch until you do." He then walked back to our car and sat down, leaving it in park. We could easily leave now that the traffic had died down a bit, but my dad wanted to prove a point. The guy kinda just sat there for almost a minute, but he eventually got up and walked over. He walked up to the driver's side window and said, "I'm really sorry sir, I'm in a rush," and my dad cut him off. No, I'm not the one you need to apologize to. It's my dog you scared. I'm not moving until I hear you apologize to her." He proceeded to roll his window up and the back window down. The guy wasn't really sure what to do, but he walked up to the window. I'm sorry for honking at you dog." "Nope, that's not gonna cut it," my dad said from the front. "I need to know you mean it." The guy looked like he was getting angrier but went with it. "I'm very sorry dog, I should have never." "No, come on man, she has a ducking name," my dad said, visibly enjoying this. "Her name is Grace, mean it or I'm not moving." The guy is ducking furious now but manages to choke out, "I'm very, very sorry Grace, I'll never do that again." "That's a bit more like it," my dad says. "Could use some work but I'll let it slide." He then put the car in drive, flipped the guy off, and drove away. He gave Grace half of his breakfast sandwich too. The next one is titled, The Crazy Boss Becomes Abusive and Pays the Price. So I worked from home for a lot of years. I never met my boss face to face. But we spoke on the phone pretty much every workday. The boss is one of those Ivy League, old money types with delusions of being a self-made man. Yeah, sure, he was self-made, if that means mommy and daddy paying for his college and then using his trust fund to start his own company. Also, this guy has deep psychological, mental problems, which may become apparent as this story progresses. Guy was kind of insane. Anyway, I should start at the beginning. One fall morning, I found myself unemployed. I'd taken a job for basically a .com. 2 or 3 key investors pulled their funding at the last minute, and that was the end of the line for the .com. It's a pretty common tale. Obviously, I needed some kind of job and I found this work from home gig. Sounded good. Decent pay, obviously no commute, work in my pajamas all day, not a bad deal. My plan was to work there for a while until I figured out my next move. It started off pretty easily too. I did tech support and the occasional PA type thing for the boss. In the beginning, the boss made it all sound like a meritocracy. You get pay raises, bonuses, etc., as you demonstrate your value. And to give him some credit, that was basically true for the first year or two that I worked there. I was getting raises and/or bonuses on a pretty regular basis. I got comfortable working there though, which was the big mistake. If I'd left after 2 years, I would have avoided a lot of unpleasantness. But by the 2-year mark, a certain hick ex-president had driven the economy into the ground and good jobs were really hard to come by. So I was basically stuck in this work from home job for a while. The boss realized my lack of mobility, and that's when things became unpleasant. I pride myself on kicking butt at any job I do. If you give me a job, I'll work my butt off until I'm the best employee in the whole company. I don't know how else to work a job except to try like hell to be the best I can be. I should say here that the boss is basically nuts. I have no idea what his issue might be. But Freud would have a field day with the boss. For starters, he always had to mention that he was Ivy League. I won't say which university, but he always mentioned that he graduated from that university when he was on the phone with people. I know this to be true because he frequently conferenced me into non-work calls he had with friends. I have no idea why he would do that. It had nothing to do with work or with me. I guess he wanted me to be impressed. Another thing was high-top shoes. He always wore high-top shoes, he told me. Because what if he was working in his apartment, tripped on something and fell over? High tops might save him from a broken ankle. Another time, I was on the phone with him and guiding him to a restaurant where he was having lunch with his parents. Because Mother Ducker refused to buy a smartphone and use GPS. So, of course I would have to guide him there on Google Maps. Swear to God, this actually happened. When he arrived at the restaurant, he got out of the car with the phone still to his ear, caught sight of his parents and said, "Mommy. Mommy." A pushing 50-year-old man, and he still calls his mother, Mommy. I mean, what in the high holy duck? Another time, the boss made me buy him a new pickup truck. I guess he didn't know you can somewhat negotiate the price on a car. Old money Ivy League, remember? I guess when you grow up ridiculously rich, you never worry about little things like getting a good deal on a new vehicle. But mentioning that little fact to the boss is one of the biggest regrets of my entire life. Because he made me buy him a truck. Obviously, the boss paid using his own money, paying cash, buying the thing outright or financing, but I still had to basically broker the deal. Once I'd closed the deal on a new truck for the boss, then I had to turn around and buy a truck for his idiot boomer dad too. Then of course, the boss said his mother decided that she wanted a new truck too. Over the course of the next year and a half, I probably negotiated the price for 6 different trucks. I've got a million of them, but I should probably get back to the story. Anyway, so the boss started messing with me after a while. Little things at first. Like, he promised me a pretty big raise. Then when my evaluation came up, he offered me a raise at half the amount he originally suggested. I mentioned that and he denied everything. He said he would never offer me a raise that big. But I stood my ground. He promised a bigger raise and now he was going back on his word. Rather than respond with facts or something, he tried to make me feel crazy. Next, he started assigning me work and then saying he wanted something different from what I turned in. I told him I had given him exactly what he asked for, but he denied it. He tried to make me feel crazy. Sometimes the company would have to send formal letters to vendors or customers. Usually, it was my job to draft them so that the boss could put the final polish on the formal letter before sending it. I was assigned one such for a customer. I wrote the letter, included the points the boss wanted to emphasize and then emailed it to him. 5 minutes later, he called me in a foaming rage. He said I got the name of the customer wrong, we can't send this, we'll look stupid to our customer, blah blah blah. He tried to make me feel crazy. Luckily, he assigned the formal letter to me through a voicemail, which I had saved. I played him the voicemail and showed him where he was wrong. I had done exactly what he told me to do. Big mistake. He hung up on me in a big huff. Things went from bad to worse. He tried to make me feel crazy. About everything. At one point, we would only communicate through email so that he couldn't try turning things around on me later on. He also assigned me some really pointless stuff to do. He wanted me to monitor a vendor's service to us. That required setting up an automated system through Windows command prompt that would constantly check the status of the vendor's service. I kept logs of every single status check that I performed. I would start the automated process at the beginning of my shift and then leave the process running until I clocked out at the end of my shift. I know I'm being vague and technical here, but this is important. It will come up later. Remember this part. My pay became by far the biggest point of contention. I'm paying you too much, you're too useless and incompetent to justify such a big salary, I should cut your pay, blah blah blah. Except I didn't get paid a salary. I got paid an hourly wage. But that didn't seem to matter. If I called out sick for a day, I didn't get paid. So I was an hourly employee, right? But if a given task, assignment made me work late, tough crap, the time clock stopped at 5 p.m. but I had to keep working. I didn't get paid one bit more. So I was a salary employee then? In fact, my pay was whatever favored the boss at any given time. You're contracted for 8 hours, so 8 hours is all you get. Yeah, a few times he tried to claim I worked on contract. It's reasonable to ask why I tolerated such mistreatment. Understand, the economy was in the shitter and job prospects for everybody were pretty bad back in those days. But here I had a job that let me work from home and was stable in the sense that the company wasn't going out of business anytime soon. Because the kind of work the company does is basically recession-proof. If I bucked up to the boss too much, he might have fired me and then I would have been in a real mess. Still, one day I snapped. After years of being called stupid or insane, I guess I'd finally had enough and I told him off. He was cruel, spiteful, vindictive and abusive. He wasn't being fair to me, either as an employee or as a person, by constantly running me down and picking on me even though I did good work and was by far the most dependable employee he had. The boss reacted as if I'd just insulted his mommy. He said he wouldn't tolerate such blatant insubordination. But, rather than fire me, he would cut my pay down to minimum wage. Thing about the boss is, he rarely fired anybody. He would usually just cut somebody's pay to a point where they couldn't stick around anymore and then they'd quit. He was trying to do that to me now. But the laws in this state say that you can't arbitrarily cut an employee's pay. A. You need cause, and B. The employee must agree to having his pay reduced. And I told the boss that he didn't have cause and that I will not agree to a pay reduction of any kind. Needless to say, he hung up on me. Next day, he called back and said that my pay will be adjusted to minimum wage in 2 weeks, and if I don't like that, I could find another job somewhere else. Got him. 2 weeks come and go and the boss made it clear that he expected me gone. No problem, if that's what you want, that's what you'll get. Naturally, I filed for unemployment. The boss fought that and tried to claim that I quit. But the state employees said that it doesn't work that way. The boss can't cut my pay without my consent. So as far as they were concerned, I was laid off. Because the boss gave me an ultimatum: accept a pay cut or get lost. The state said that means I was laid off, which means that I was eligible for unemployment. The boss fought that too. He changed his story and tried to claim that I was fired with cause for incompetence and gross negligence. The state employees replied by saying if that was true, why did my pay matter at all? If I was so bad, why didn't the boss just fire me outright and skip arguing about my pay altogether? I guess the boss didn't have an answer for that. In the end, I got paid unemployment. For the first time in his life, things weren't going the way the boss wanted them to go. He was used to bullying other people around. Losing wasn't in his script. I'd gotten a taste of victory. And I wanted more. Now it was really time to put the screws to the boss. I filed a complaint with a different employment department. I reported that the boss forced me to work extra hours almost every single day and refused to pay me for the extra time. The employment department asked if I had proof. And yes, I did have proof. It was easy to produce several emails alluding to the extra hours I'd worked. I made a point of mentioning these extra unpaid hours in several emails to the boss over the years, suspecting it might come to this in the end. Other employees and the boss inadvertently corroborated my unpaid hours in other emails. Plus, remember that I checked the status of a vendor's service? Well, I logged every single one of those things. The only mathematically possible way to log that many automated status checks is by working 10-hour days here, 12-hour days there, etc. Because 8 hours would result in fewer tests performed per day, while more than 8 hours resulted in a higher number of tests performed per day. Get it? This had been going on for years and I had proof. I even had proof that the boss personally demanded all this. In the end, the state employment department guy said that his department basically drove a bus up his butt. I don't know all the details, but I heard that they socked him with a bunch of fines or something. Like I say, I never knew all the details, but they really made the boss live in a world of crap for something like a year. For fun and games, I reached out to some ex-employees who had gotten run out by the boss. I gave them the number of my contact guy in the state employment office and said this guy might be very interested in hearing their stories. 2 former employees told me they'd love to talk to that guy. The last one is titled, "Don't Screw Over the People That Work for the Same Company." So I work for an international hotel brand. I really like it. I get to meet people from all over the world. Some are so nice as to give me food, souvenirs, or tips. We're not allowed to take tips, but my manager said it's okay, so to hell with the rules. Now for the cons: having to deal with rude guests and not being able to speak my mind and let them know exactly what I think of them. But having to deal with more of the nice guests helps me get over these rude ones. Now there was this one day, where we had a young lady made a reservation, let's call her SW for stupid witch. She was an employee, but for another hotel under the same brand in another town. Because she was an employee, she was able to book the room under her employee discount. When it comes to an employee making a reservation in another hotel, they have to be the one to check in and check out. All employees are also representing the hotel they work for. So if they act like they have no common sense, or like complete imbeciles, the manager of that hotel can have their discount revoked. He can also call their personal manager and complain, and let them know they are no longer welcome to stay in their hotel. Back to the story. Everything was fine in the beginning. We checked her in, made a copy of her ID to let my manager know that the reservation matched with the ID. She's very strict when it comes to employees booking in our hotel. Afterwards she left with her family, which included her grandma, and some little kids. They went out to the pool for a bit and left to go pick up some food. They came back to the hotel with the food and went to their room. About 5 minutes later she calls the front desk to let me know that her fridge was not working. Unfortunately I did not have a housekeeper at the time to go up and look at it, or a maintenance person. I apologized and told her I could go up and get her drinks and put them in the kitchen fridge, and she can call when she wants them. She said okay. Half an hour later she calls for me to go and bring her drinks, and she also said, "I had some pizza and sandwiches, and I left the garbage outside my room for you to come and pick up." What the hell, I thought, is this witch for real? She knows just how displeasing it looks having a whole bunch of garbage in the hallways, and having guests walk by. It looks wrong and dirty. I brought up her drinks and picked up her trash. I can hear her grandma get loud and obnoxious, but I ignored her. Later in the day those little kids kept coming down to the coffee area making hot chocolate and leaving an absolute pigsty. It was so frustrating. She called requesting a 2 o'clock checkout. Now for all you hotel stayers. You all know that the average checkout time is 12 p.m. But we can extend till 1:30 p.m. with no charge. And that is exactly what my manager gave her, 1:30 p.m. Which was lucky she got that, since we want all the rooms clean before the new guests arrive. Her reservation was only for 1 day. So the next day she was supposed to check out. However, it was another woman that was checking out. I let my manager know all of things that have been taking place. I was shocked when she said, "Oh, we'll just let it slide." All that changed the next week when we saw her evaluation. We take evaluations very seriously, and for that month our scores have been low, and this evaluation did not help our case. As soon as my manager saw that evaluation, she rang up the SW's manager to notify her of her behavior and that she was no longer welcome to our hotel. Her manager said, "Oh, she said she was quitting anyway." So I did not get the satisfaction of her paying for the consequences. But, about a month later, I'm looking in the system for today's guest and see her name with the employee discount. She actually called our hotel to let us know that she was not going to be the one to check in. I knew there was a huge joker face smirk on my face once I heard her say that. I told her, "Sorry ma'am, but according to corporate policy you have to be the one to check in order for your employee rate to be honored. So as of now you'll be charged the regular rate." She had a witch fit and hung up. I told my manager and she dialed her number as if her life depended on it. My manager told SW that she was going to cancel her reservation because she no longer worked for the hotel. SW quickly stated that she made the reservation while she was still employed with her hotel. But at the end it did not matter, since you have to be an employee presently in order for your discount to work. SW had another witch fit and requested to speak to a manager. My manager told her that she was a manager and that her reservation was cancelled, and she was no longer welcome to stay at this hotel. SW started crying, saying how she made plans and that people were driving from their towns 2.5 hours away to hang out with her on her birthday. And she couldn't afford to pay for a regular stay at a hotel. My manager said, "Sorry, but there is nothing we can do." She hung up after that. She quickly called the hotel corporate number to notify all nearby hotels that SW was not an employee and should not be given that discount, in case she was going to make a reservation with them. I was surprised. Her being a hotel worker, she knows exactly the kind of crap we deal with on a daily basis, and she acted like a total witch. I am so glad I was there to see it all go down, because she had that crap coming. And for all you people out there, be sympathetic not just with hotel workers but for people as well. It don't matter how rich you are or your status, we all have it coming one day. Thanks for listening.